welcome to the CNBC TV 18 special as we continue our coverage of assessing the performance of the key ministries in the Modi government. Joining us today is the Railway Minister Suresh Prabhu. Mr. Prabhu, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. It's a hot Delhi evening, 47 degrees, but thank you very much for joining us outside. Let me start by asking you about what you would put down as the key achievement for your ministry. I've got pages and pages of achievements that you've put out, but let me ask you to identify for us the key achievement. You know, there's stuff across sanitation, cleanliness, infrastructure, PPP, but that single biggest achievement that you would put down?
You know, first I would consider it as you correctly said, there are several, but I'm saying the journey has begun. So the train is definitely moving at a good speed and moving in the right direction. So that's the biggest achievement, because for a long time we have been seeing that the problems of railways were well known, but we are always handicapped by the fact that we didn't want to address the problem by saying that these are the constraints. So we said, okay, we'll change the red lines, we'll go beyond the constraints and address them. One example is raising resources for the railways. Second is increase the speed of implementation, because we can always implement a project in 20 years, or we can do it in 3-4 years. And that's what we have started doing, as the speed has increased to almost 7.8 kilometers a day from something half of that. It'll go to about 19 kilometers a day in the next 3 years. That has happened because of multiple factors. One is because the delegation. Second, now we are ready with about 5.6 lakh crores of projects which were not there last year. When I said 77 projects were announced, I was sticking my neck out, because they were the projects which are necessary for the railways. As you will recall, I became minister only in month of November, and then I had to present a budget in February. So by the time I realized what the problems of the railways were, then having identified those, realizing that we need to invest there, but no project report ready. But still I put it there. Parliament approved it. We got the DPR ready, then we got all the necessary sanctions made, and then it is there. So this year is not the case. This year we are ready with the projects, we are ready with funds, we are ready with delegated powers to the people. We are also have the confidence in the organization that they can do it, because they already spent quite a bit of it this year. So I am saying the next year will be better than this year. The year after next will be far, far better. In fact, I just gave this figure to Rajya Sabha the other day. In next 3 years' time, the amount of money that we will be spending on buying material, steel, cement and other stuff, will be few lakh crores. For example, we just gave our biggest order ever to the wagon manufacturers. Now the wagon manufacturer order is only in our books. They in turn will buy steel. They in turn will create employment. We are going to lay tracks, as I said, at 19 kilometers a day over a period of time. Would mean that much steel will be necessary. That much concrete sleepers will be necessary. That kind of cement will be necessary. So you can imagine the exponential growth that is going to happen in the year. So this year was a break from the past. This year was the beginning of a process. This year is a confidence building measure. This year was a capacity building measure. And this year is the beginning. The journey has begun, long way to go.
The journey has begun, long way to go. You gave me several figures there, so let me pick up on the figure of 5.6 lakh crore rupees. That's the identified project pipeline that you're working with. How soon can we expect implementation on that 5.6 lakh crore project pipeline?
You know, you must understand the life cycle of project implementation in railways. First, as I said, you have a lot of approval processes. Also, a lot of technicalities go into it. For example, the project we are doing now is like doubling. The doubling project involves creating a yard plan, because the train has to come there, train has to stop there. Also, the same next track, the trains are running. So you have to work next to that. So therefore, the project implementation has started. As I said, because of the processes that we are following now, because of changes that we have introduced into the system, I think in next year we'll be spending more than what we estimated, 1,21,000 crore for sure.
In addition, spending more. How much more do you believe you'll need to spend, sir?
1,21,000 crore is something I have budgeted in my budget, but I think it will be definitely more than that. But also I must remind you, sometimes this point is lost. The capital expenditure is from the railways. Budget itself is not a capital expenditure railway is going to incur. This comes from various factors. For example, now the high-speed railway, 1 lakh crore project, which will start 2023 is a commissioning date. So in the next 2-3 years, we'll see a substantial Capex to be incurred on that. Dedicated freight corridor, tenders have been issued. So the Capex that will really happen in the next year will be phenomenally high, 85,000 crore project. Then the diesel and electric locomotive manufacturing projects in Bihar, 40,000 crores. So all of that add up to, then we started the station development. And first, luckily, first tender has been issued in Bhopal, Habibganj. That itself will now bring in the new investment opportunity. Like in Surat, 17 or 18 companies are bidding for it. So it all is put together. There will be capital expenditure coming from different streams, not just from one budgetary resource alone. So all of that put together, I'm very sure what we had estimated for 5 years Capex plan will probably be more over the 5 years period.
How much more will it be, sir?
I don't know right now, but I'm saying definitely it looks like, see, there are certain things where there are variables. For example, the response for the station development, which has to come from the private sector. The new freight corridor we want to launch. They may not be, they could be launched in a sense, but Capex may happen little later. So I am very sure over a period of time, every year you will see an exponential rise in the Capex of the railways, not only coming from the one source of budget, but also from multiple streams, and that added together will add to the huge growth of GDP. As you will agree, and I am sure you are better than me in that respect, is that every rupee that you spend in the railways, the benefit to the economy will be 6 times higher.
Sure.
So whatever we spend here now is going to have a huge employment potential as well as growth for the economy.
Since we're talking about funding and we're talking about Capex, you know, the LIC MOU has been done with. You've already got whatever the finance minister has allocated as far as the budgetary support is concerned. But outside of that, the last conversation that you and I had, you said the negotiations were underway with World Bank. You were hopeful of closing that. Where do things currently stand on talks with the World Bank are concerned?
You know, as I said, LIC facility is also a standby facility. It's like an overdraft. It's available to you if you want to spend the money, because that assurance of availability of money itself is a guarantee for implementation of a project. Because if you don't know when the money is going to come, automatically the project implementing team feels, you know, I don't know. And this is what has happened in railways. That's how the projects have suffered. So first, a guarantee of availability coming from standby facility. That's why these 5 years, 30,000 a year, 150,000 crores. The World Bank is very willing. We had a long discussion with them. The facility, what we are thinking about, is something like not just for the railways budgetary support alone, but it could be any development project in railways.
Okay.
For example, there's a new development, and this I must say that that's why I was saying 8,50,000 crore, maybe even short, because Maharashtra, the 16 states, as you know, agreed with us that they will they will work with a joint venture with us. Now, of this, some states like Maharashtra, we already identified project worth 70 to 80,000 crore, including Mumbai. Now, this project also will go for implementation. Now, how do you get money for that? So, one is the debt equity ratio has to be decided. Suppose it is 1:3:1. In that case, we put in 25%, 12% by Maharashtra government, 12% by us. The remaining 75% has to come from some source. So, that can also come from multilateral agencies, either bilaterally or through this fund that we are thinking of creating at the World Bank. That fund can invest into this project. Then look at some of the PPP projects, which are for the railways. Benefit is going to come to the railways. So those PPP projects also might need debt as well as equity. So those investment also come from this fund. So the nature of the fund will undergo a little bit of a change, not only for government spent projects, but projects for railways, either implemented by railways themselves through joint venture companies with state governments, or through our public sector undertakings, which is one of the important strategies for us, or as a PPP project.
Okay, that's an interesting idea. I want to pick up on the status as far as freight corridors are concerned, because this is what got a lot of people excited, and everybody is talking about the implications of these additional freight corridors that you announced in the railway budget, sir. Where do things currently stand? How soon can we expect forward movement? You, of course, already articulated the Capex plan that would be required for this to get off the ground.
You know, we have some tentative work started. I don't think this project will be started this year. It is not possible. But the necessary work to make it happen in the next few years' time will be started this year substantially. Because this is, a lot of planning is required. But this is a very critical backbone infrastructure necessary for many things to happen. Like Make in India, what is Make in India is going to happen is, we will be actually manufacturing a lot of manufactured goods in India. To make that happen, we need a lot of movement of raw material from the source or from the port to the manufacturing plant. Once you manufacture it, we'll have to also take it away from that to the market or to the port again for the export. So all of this is require a lot of movement of goods and material. So for that, we need backbone infrastructure. If you move all of that by road, implications of climate, the greenhouse gas emissions will be phenomenal. It will be costly. So to make it environment friendly, to make it cost effective, to also make it that it will have some assurance when it is going to reach you. Today, if you are moving the same freight, not on a dedicated corridor, but on a passenger corridor also, which is used for dual use, then in that case, there is no guarantee that goods will reach at time. And now in Japan, we talk about just-in-time inventory. And here you don't know, not just in time, but we know no time. How can it be? So therefore, that again is necessary. So this critical part of infrastructure necessary for Make in India, for increasing a base of manufacturing, is this freight corridor. So what I'm saying is this year, I don't think we'll start the work, but we'll actually start preparation to launch these projects in the next 2 years' time.
In the next 2 years' time. Dr. Panagaria has been going back and forth between Japan and India on the high-speed projects. I understand that a significant amount of the negotiations that are perhaps pending rest on the Make in India component of the deal. What can we expect then? How soon will we, cross the I's and, cross the T's and dot the I's?
See, what we have created is a institutionalized structure. That Dr. Panagaria, being a vice chairman of NITI Aayog, therefore in a way the neutral body. Also the finance ministry, the ministry of industry promotion, I think, and railways, they together are actually talking to the ministry in Japan. The idea is that, of course, broad agreement has already been reached, but always there are fine-tuning and broad decisions. Japanese already agreed, and I must compliment them, that good part of that will be manufactured in India. They also agreed that the principal contractors will be also Indian in a substantial way. This is little bit a far more improvement than a model that we adopted earlier, even for dedicated freight corridor, which also is a JICA assisted project. So this is a very significant improvement over what has been agreed by the Japanese as a model in the past. So this is a very good development, very progressive development. We are moving ahead with this. The target is that we should try to run the train by 2023.